Welcome in, everybody. It's Catfish on Ice with your host, Chad Minton, episode 258. Got to get into it. It's a special Sunday night edition of Catfish on Ice. We've got some news coming in for everybody to talk about. Before we get into that and Nashville Predators talk, we are presented by DraftKings and Game Time Ticket app. We'll tell you more about that later. But before that, we got the NFL playoffs going on right now. So I got to tell a funny story, icebreaker, to open up episode 258. My buddy bought me a Christmas gift, and it was very nice of him to do so. It was one of those just like buddies exchanging random gifts, nothing serious. But yeah, he bought me this old school Titans hat, and I'm not wearing it because as bad as the Predators are, I can't wear this hat right now. Because that team is such a clown show that it would just give me really bad mojo right now. So I can't wear it. I cannot wear this hat. I love you, buddy. Shout out to my boy Taylor. I'll buy the next round of drinks at the bar. I'll do something else for you. I'll wear it another time when I feel a little bit better. But I'm not wearing a Predators hat either tonight because they're equally a clown show. Both professional sports franchises in the great city of Nashville, Tennessee are clown shows right now, circuses. So I'm wearing a Vanderbilt hat because I am a lifelong Vanderbilt fan. And I've been through the deep, deep, dark times with being a Vanderbilt fan. And at least they won a bowl game in football this year. So I'm wearing a Vanderbilt hat. I don't know. Probably the first time I've ever done that on this podcast. But I'm wearing a Vanderbilt hat. It's fine. But let's tell you why we are recording on a Sunday night solo with yours truly, Chad Minton. And it's because there's a lot of talk about something that I brought up and talked about numerous times on this podcast and also wrote about it on Predlines. About a month ago, really, was when I really started thinking about it. And, of course, when you've got a team like the Nashville Predators, who are complete and utter disappointments of the league, one of the biggest disappointments that you can really think about preseason-wise and what their expectations were, probably one of the biggest disappointments. I don't know, this isn't scientific what I'm saying here, but I would have to venture to say maybe it's a future research project I'll do for the next episode to really look deep into this, but they got to be one of the most disappointing teams when you compare them to their preseason expectations in at least the last 5 to 10 years, maybe even further past that. That would be a fun project to look up. Maybe I'll do that. But be that as it may, when a team like the Nashville Predators are such an abomination and such an utter failure, you're going to start hearing trade rumors swirl. We're about 2 months away, a little less than 2 months away from the trade deadline. And so the Nashville Predators are going to be a team that just naturally speaking are going to be thrown in there as one of the top selling teams. But no one knows what Barry Trotz is going to do because he's such a wild card when it comes to general managers. No one knows what he's going to do. But Ryan O'Reilly is coming up now, finally. I brought him up about a month ago. He's finally coming up as a possible trade candidate for the Predators. He is by far their best realistic trade candidate. He's not their best trade candidate because obviously you've got your no-move clauses on this team. And there's a lot of them. Philip Forsberg, Roman Josi, Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault. Those are your big four that are probably untouchable and they're not going anywhere. But Ryan O'Reilly is the type of player that you would think might have a no-move clause, but he doesn't. But that's why this episode is about tonight, and this is why I got to talk about it, because I have a lot of strong feelings about it, because I have a lot of utmost respect for Ryan O'Reilly. He is dealing with he's just such a classy player. He is a captain without having the captain captain's patch on his sweater, but he is a captain on the ice. That's not a knock on Roman Josi at all. I'm not, because there was all that chatter earlier in the season about it. It's still going on. Should Roman Josi be the captain of the Predators? For me, that is a non-point, a non-issue. I don't care really who carries that title, because it's a lot of times it's way overblown. But Ryan O'Reilly is captain-like material when you really think about it. He is a leader on the ice. He is a coach on the ice. He's a player coach. He's a guy that you don't really want to lose necessarily. But desperate times call for desperate measures. No one expected us to be in this situation. So that's where we find ourselves. So got to get into what Elliotte Friedman is saying here, and I'm going to put it on the screen as well, because in kind of the main points that – so Elliotte Friedman put out his Saturday night headlines. And, whatever Elliotte Friedman says is pretty much gospel. So I'm going to put it on the screen. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook right now when we upload this video later, please hit subscribe. It helps out a ton. Hit the like button. Throw a comment in the section. I try my best to respond to all of those. And I'm going to share I've gotten a lot of responses on Ryan O'Reilly on this Sunday. There's no game today. You got NFL playoffs going on. You would think that Predators hockey is really like on the back burner for a lot of people. But I got a lot of responses on Twitter and Facebook, and I'm going to read some of them when it comes to this Ryan O'Reilly stuff and what's going on. But let me put on the screen here what basically the main 2 points that Elliotte Friedman shared coming from the general manager, Barry Trotz. And because it's very revealing. It's very revealing, gives us an insight on what's going on here. And that's what Elliotte Friedman does. He always fills us in. So there it is right there. Shared from my X account or Twitter. And if you want, you can go follow me at Chad_Minton. But from Elliotte Friedman, headlines regarding the Preds treating Ryan O'Reilly as if he is technically trade protected, even though he's not. In Ryan O'Reilly's contract, he is not officially trade protected as if Roman Josi or, like those guys, Ryan O'Reilly, Philip Forsberg, Steven Stamkos, they cannot be traded no matter how bad the organization wants to trade them unless they sign off on it, is basically how that works. There's a lot more details to that, but that's the main crux of it. So when it comes to Ryan O'Reilly, Trotz basically, according to Elliotte Friedman, said, we're treating this guy like he is untouchable. He is trade protected. But you got 2 points here that Elliotte Friedman shares that could break that, and maybe O'Reilly could be traded. One, it would have to be a really significant offer that basically Barry Trotz cannot refuse, which we've always, that's really that goes without saying. I mean, everyone has a price, but is it realistic is really what it comes down to. But that's basically what Trotz is saying there, or what Elliotte Friedman is sharing, is that, if some crazy offer comes across my desk that I just cannot refuse because a team just wants Ryan O'Reilly so bad, almost certainly that would be a playoff team that would want Ryan O'Reilly at this point in his career. I won't walk away from it. Well, I like that. I agree with that. I think that's very likely it could happen. Number 2, O'Reilly will have to agree to it, and Friedman doesn't see any indication that ROR, Ryan O'Reilly, wants out. That just tells me that kind of what we've always thought about Ryan O'Reilly. He is, quote unquote, a company man. He is a loyal player to his team that he plays for. He wanted to play for Nashville. It was such a major offseason news story in 2023 when Barry Trotz first, he hadn't even officially taken the general manager title yet. You know, David Poyle was on his way out. Trotz was coming in, and they go and get Ryan O'Reilly. He bolts away. He just ditches Toronto, the big market, and comes to a little market Nashville Predators. And despite all of the ineptitude that this organization has gone through in the last couple of years, most notably this year, Ryan O'Reilly has just been everything you could have hoped for. This isn't on him. The guy goes out there and just leaves it all out there. I mean, he really does. You can see the frustration on his eyes and on his face when he's playing. I mean, he's doing everything he can. And yes, he's past the prime of his career, but you know, he fueled the Preds top line in Andrew Burnett's first year of coaching, his first year with the Predators. And that top line could not carry over to this current season with Gus Nyquist and Philip Forsberg. Forsberg just broke an 18-game goal drought. He has scored 2 goals in 2 straight games. He did score the lone Preds goal against the Capitals, which I'm going to lightly touch on that to round out this episode. But so yeah, I mean, I brought this up over a month ago that Ryan O'Reilly has to be considered the top trade piece right now. Not because you want to trade him. That's not what I'm saying. You have to sometimes trade players you don't want to trade, players that you like, but you have to treat this like a business. And, you know, right now, I don't think Trotz has to be overly aggressive about trying to trade him. It's not like O'Reilly is a rental player that's about to hit free agency in the offseason. You're about to lose him for nothing, like Gus Nyquist to a lesser extent. But Gus Nyquist is going to be, right now, he's the only unrestricted free agent for the Predators in the 2025 offseason. He's the only one. So it's like a foregone conclusion, right? That Nyquist is going to be traded. You would expect that. Full credit to my co-host, Max Greenberg, because he called it out for a long time, as did a lot of people, that Gus Nyquist was probably going to regress this season. He was going to, I don't know if Max could have ever expected him to regress this much, but Nyquist has been just a shell of himself from his first year with the Predators. But yeah, that line just hasn't worked out. And luckily, Stamkos has come in and taken that top line center role, but nothing's gone according to plan for this Predators team. But Ryan O'Reilly, look, I think that there's got to be a lot of teams out there, several teams. I would say at least 4 to 5 teams, maybe more, who are going to pick up the phone numerous times in the next leading up to the trade deadline, which we got a lot of time before that happens. They're going to be asking Barry Trotz about Ryan O'Reilly. And I think Trotz would be very wise to not rush into anything. Let the season play out. Let's let the desperation build a little bit more. That's kind of the overwhelming thought process when you're playing chess, not checkers, when it comes to the NHL trade market. You know, I hate to say this, but you're waiting for some catastrophic injuries to happen to some teams. You're waiting for a team to lose a really crucial top 6 center. That's what Trotz might be waiting on. And that's what he should wait on, because it's kind of inevitable. Injuries are inevitable for the NHL. And it's also inevitable that there's going to be a team that gets more desperate than they are now, but they're going to get more desperate. And Ryan O'Reilly is a guy who I think can fetch you definitely another higher end draft pick, and maybe another good prospect to put in Milwaukee and give you a future, because the Predators have to turn the page now. They have to. I do not like the thought process here of, oh no, Trotz is going to reload and he's going to try to run this back next year because Stamkos is signed for a few more years. Marchessault signed for a few more years. Like, he's not going to take no for an answer, in other words. Trotz isn't. He's going to say, okay, this didn't work out. We're going to do it again next year and try it again. You know, I think he took his home run swing. Give him credit for being aggressive. I mean, but it hasn't worked out. We've been as patient as we possibly can be with this season. We've waited for the puck luck to come back to the Predators' direction. We've waited for all of this, and it's just not working. Now the Predators are having to constantly call up players from Milwaukee because the injury bug has hit this team pretty hard as well. That's not Trotz's fault. That's no one's fault. It just happens. It's bad injury luck. But it's just further complicated and exacerbated the problems that this Predators team has. And they're having to call up guys that aren't necessarily ready to be playing heavy NHL minutes. And, I mean, that's just where we're at. So, I mean, I don't see a point in continuing to have Ryan O'Reilly. Now, I will say this as well. I'm not saying give away Ryan O'Reilly. I'm not saying desperately trade him away. It's not what I'm saying at all. And I don't think you'll have to. That's my point. I don't think you'll have to desperately trade Ryan O'Reilly like you might have to do with Gus Nyquist because he's about to hit unrestricted free agency. And I'll put up on Puckpedia right now just the list of forwards and what their contract situations look like right now. I'm going to put this on YouTube right now and Facebook for the video viewers. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, you can go watch the video version of this episode right now. And we put a lot of graphics on the screen that kind of just further illustrates what we're talking about here. So this is from Puckpedia. This is the list of current contracts right now for the Predators. And look, only one unrestricted free agent due to be for 2025 season and that 2025 offseason, and that is Gus Nyquist. I'll zoom in a little bit here so you can really see it if you're watching. And Ryan O'Reilly, $4.5 million for 2 more years after this season. So I don't think Trotz necessarily needs to be super desperate in trying to trade him because he is signed for 2 more years. And I do think he has really strong, solid hockey in him left. He's showing that this season on a very inept team, but he is 33 years old. And you're worried about that regress. You're worried about it. Father Time is undefeated, everybody. All right? It's just a matter of how long can Ryan O'Reilly hold it off? How long? I mean, it sounds blasphemous, but we have all come to agree, mostly, even the biggest Ryan O'Reilly fans would have to admit that O'Reilly's clearly not a top-line center anymore. And arguably speaking, on a really good cup contending team, he's probably not even a second-line center anymore. But he's still a valuable player. And I do think there's going to be teams who are going to consider having him on their playoff roster. And you're going to get a better return out of him than probably any other trade asset you have on this team right now that you're realistically going to trade. That's kind of where I'm coming from here. And that's what I've been coming from for over a month now when it comes to Ryan O'Reilly. You look at the rest of these players that I think could maybe be traded. Gus Nyquist, for sure. You're seeing Tommy Novak come up and trade it. I don't think it's going to happen, honestly. I don't think they're going to trade Tommy Novak. I think they're going to really try hard to keep developing him and then see what happens in 2025, 26. That's my feeling on not Novak. Just a quick reaction. Further down the list, you're seeing a lot of depth players at this point. So they're not going to get any trade value for you at all. I mean, none of these guys are. I mean, and then you got, Colton Sissons is the next player I say that you can trade. He's not going to get he might get a 3rd or a 4th round pick. And I do think there's some teams that could want Colton Sissons as well. But Ryan O'Reilly can actually get you a decent value. 2nd round pick, maybe a prospect. I don't know. What's the price to pay? How much does someone want Ryan O'Reilly out there? And then if a good deal doesn't come your way, then don't take it. I'm not saying you have to. But I've been hinting at this for a while now. And it's finally coming to pass. And I expected that to happen, especially if the Preds kept losing, which they have. That was kind of my headline in my Predlines article about a month ago, was barring a miracle run was the beginning of that headline. Well, guess what? It's been almost a month and there hasn't been no miracle run. There's been a couple wins sprinkled here and there. There's been a little bit of progress when it comes to the offense, a little bit here and there, but they're still having the same issues. They can't finish. They can't score on their expected goals opportunities. They're the worst team in the league when it comes to expected goal differential. They're the worst team in the league when it comes to finishing. That is according to JFresh Hockey Analytics. So, and it hasn't changed. That's been that way for most of the season. So it's time to just let it go. And maybe Ryan O'Reilly doesn't want to leave, and kudos to him. I mean, I respect that. I respect the hell out of that. Let's tell you about DraftKings, and we got the NFL playoffs going on right now. Of course, we've already seen some pretty interesting games. The Buffalo Bills crushed the Denver Broncos, and then of course the Ravens beat the Steelers. You've got some games going on today. I'm down here in the Tampa Bay area, and the Bucs are getting ready to face off with the Washington Commanders. That should be a good game. Packers and the Eagles are playing right now, so a lot of playoff action going on. So playoffs, we're talking about playoffs. You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is key to winning in the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the number one place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple, like a player to score 6. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. And I'm going to pull up DraftKings right now on my phone. You go get the DraftKings Sportsbook app. It's this easy. And I'm going to look up what lines they already have set. We got live lines right now. We've got the Vikings at the Rams on Monday, January the 13th. And right now, DraftKings has the Vikings as a minus 2.5 point favorite. Over under is set at 47.5 points. And the money line is the Minnesota Vikings minus 142. And they've already jumped ahead to January 19th. Texans at the Chiefs. They got the Chiefs as a minus 8.5 point favorite over the Texans. Heavy favorites, as you would probably expect. Going for the three-peat, the Chiefs are. And then a very highly anticipated next round matchup in the NFL playoffs. The Ravens at the Bills. Josh Allen versus, come on now. Versus Lamar Jackson. Arguably the two MVPs of the league. Right now, DraftKings has that pretty much virtually a dead heat. They do give the Bills the favorite just because they are at home, but it doesn't get any closer than that. 51.5 point over under, minus 110 money line for both teams. So it is a toss-up according to DraftKings. So you've got plenty of time to get in with our promo code THPN. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get 200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 8778-HOPENY or text HOPENY. That's 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available. For problem gambling, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Void in Ontario. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. All right. So moving along here, let's get into some comments that I've gotten regarding the Ryan O'Reilly stuff. And I'm going to read some of them on the screen. I'm going to read some of them here. And the first thing I really want to get into is just when it comes to should Trotz really treat O'Reilly like he's not tradable, basically? Should he be asking for such a large return? And we've got a couple comments here on X. Casisen in mode, which is a former Preds player. The problem with signing these guys who've won cups is they're content with chilling in Nashville. Ironic about how he said he doesn't want anyone to come here to retire. Yeah, that is an overwhelming theme for this franchise right now, is basically we're the retirement home of the NHL now. And funny enough, the Titans, the NFL team, are also criticized for doing that. Basically, we're taking on players who have already won Stanley Cups. And by the time they get here, yeah, they've already won their Stanley Cups. Yeah, good comment there. AK50, a friend of mine on X, appreciate all of their responses all the time. They say, let's be real here. For Trotz, a substantial trade would be a grinder, a prospect that projects to be a grinder in mid-pick. Yeah, I'm sensing the sarcasm right now in these comments. I really am. But, I mean, it's hard to argue with that. I mean, it seems like anytime lately Trotz makes some trades, it really doesn't get your motor running that much, except for Scott Wedgwood for Justus Onanen. That has been let's look for the silver lining here. Let's give Trotz credit where credit's due. That looks like a good trade right now. But I hear that. And then JS Brown on X also responds and says, must be a heck of a paycheck to not want out of this shit show. Yeah. Put the poop emoji on there. Yeah. I think he's just loyal. O'Reilly is very loyal to this team. He wanted to play here. He's a different breed. He really is, and it's very rare to see professional athletes these days. But you do see it in hockey more than the other sports. But it's very rare these days to see players just really be loyal to a team. And I mean, to see O'Reilly, but that's why I'm not so sure about this. I mean, I'm very 50-50 right now on if O'Reilly gets traded or not. Just because Trotz came out and made these comments to Friedman does not mean that I think that he's not going to get traded. You know, you got to think this is all a lot of hearsay. This is all a lot of not to say that Friedman's report isn't accurate. I think it is, but my point is, Trotz could be bluffing here. He could be playing his hand. He could be playing a little poker here, if you will. He's bluffing maybe, and that's fine because there's no reason to rush into anything right now. As I said earlier, let everything unfold here. Let the season unfold, and let's see what really happens here. Because I think more teams are going to get desperate for a player like Ryan O'Reilly over the next few weeks. I really do. So, but yeah. So, I mean, the way I respond to that, though, must be a heck of a paycheck. I mean, he's a company man. He's loyal. He's a captain without the official title. I mean, that's really how I feel about Ryan O'Reilly. And if you traded him away, would it undoubtedly hurt this team in the short term? Of course it would. Of course it would. You know, O'Reilly is one of the few players that's actually living up to his standard this season. I hate to say it when it comes to the veterans. Colton Sissons is underperforming. I know Forsberg's piling up the assist, but I mean, you pay Forsberg to score goals. And up until just a couple games ago, he was on an 18-game goal drought. You can call that bad luck. You can call it whatever you want. I mean, you pay Philip Forsberg to score goals, not pile up secondary assist. I'm sorry. I hate to say it. And Stamkos, you know, I'm a big Stamkos guy. I loved when they signed him. But, you know, yeah, he's been underwhelming as well. Jonathan Marchessault got off to a horrendously slow start. He's finally picking it up, but the overwhelming general grade is he's still been very average at best. He's making up for it now, but it's something that's plagued this entire team. So why would you keep holding on to O'Reilly? If he's willing to be traded, you trade him. You really do. I mean, I've been saying that for a while. I want to make sure I don't miss any other good comments here. Also on Facebook, let's check the Pred lines. We got tons of comments. I put out a question on Facebook about who is your top trade candidate right now, realistically speaking. Realistically, not like I'm not going to take as a valid response Roman Yossi, UC Saros, those guys. It has to be someone who's realistic. But I mean, again, it's a lot of sarcasm from the fan base, and I don't blame them. They're ticked off. They're upset. KL Boss on Facebook says none. No one is your top trade candidate. This year sucks, but let them mesh and get a good coach next season with this team. James Sherwood on Facebook says, I think Novak, he has shown flashes of being really good, which a cup contender may see as an upgrade to a fourth, possibly a third line forward. He just isn't working well with his current line mates. Yeah, as I just said earlier, Novak should be considered a trade candidate, but I don't see it happening personally just because he's still young and he's still got a couple years left on his contract. They might have overpaid for Novak. So I think that contract might be difficult to move. I mean, I'll pull it up right here as I got it in front of me. He's at $3.5 million, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when it comes to a young player who hasn't proven a whole lot on this level, it might be a hard contract to move to get what you really want out of Novak. That's all I would say to James about that. Grizzly Morgan says the whole team for a used corn dog. Okay. Yeah, you sense the sarcasm here, everybody. Let's see. Matt on Facebook says no one should be excluded, and I mean literally no one. Troy said aside from the coach, I'd go with Nyquist. So again, sarcasm, but yeah. Troy seems to want to trade away Andrew Burnett, but since you can't trade away coaches, he says Nyquist, which is the most realistic. And the no-brainer is to trade Nyquist. Jason says all of our high-priced people aren't growing enough for people to even take their salaries. Very good point. And finally, Joel, who has been on, he jumps in from time to time on our live episodes, says anyone that does not have a no trade or no movement clause should be available to trade away. Totally agree with that, with Joel and what he says there. So there you have it. That's what we have going on there. Ryan O'Reilly, we'll see what happens. I'll just to wrap this up, I think that you have to trade O'Reilly if the offer makes sense. And I think Trotz is realizing that right now. That's just my speculation, but I think he realizes that he's putting it out there. You know, Friedman has already said teams are interested. So I think that all of you Ryan O'Reilly lovers out there, you've already been through a lot probably with losing other players that you love this season. But I think this team is going to look drastically different going into 2025-26. You're going to have the same core players, but it's going to look a lot different. I mean, just get ready for it. I mean, that's what happens when you have a season like this. Let's tell you about our next sponsor. That is Game Time. And, of course, nothing beats live hockey. Nothing beats your first hockey experience. The crispness of the ice, the speed of the game, the chill of everything. You walk in with the hoodie. Just the atmosphere, the fans, everything about it is the best. I still remember my first live hockey game. Year 3 maybe of the Predators being in Nashville. Didn't even know what icing was. Nothing really beats that excitement. And right now, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So let's pull up the Game Time app just like I did with DraftKings. I'm going to pull it up on my phone right now because it's so easy to use. And I got Nashville as my setting, but you can set any setting you want. And it's basketball season right now. So you got Belmont basketball starting at $20. You got Vanderbilt basketball starting at $16 for the next game. And when it comes to the Nashville Predators, which is trending on Game Time right now, let's pull up the Nashville Predators. Their next home game is on Tuesday, January 14th against the Golden Knights. And tickets as low as $18. But what really makes Game Time awesome is it's not just finding the cheapest tickets, it's finding the best deals. The best deals. Look, got it on my phone right now just to prove it. But it shows you all the seats available. It tells you if it's a really good deal. And it cuts through all of the added fees that you get from the other sites. What you pay is what you pay. The price that you see on the screen is what you pay. You get the panoramic view of your seat that you're thinking about buying, which is my favorite feature, is the panoramic view. I can literally go in there virtually before I buy those seats and see what is my seat going to look like when I get in that arena. Really helps out big time if you've never been to that arena or venue. And also, it's not just live sports. It's hockey. It's theater. It's comedy shows. Game Time is there for you. So again, the Game Time picks curation that makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. All in pricing, which is toggling. This feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Seat views, the panoramic view, the lowest price guarantee, and the Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So with that said, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download the Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Preds take the loss against the Capitals. Was kind of a close game there for a little bit. The worst part about this game, by far, is you only give up 16 shots on goal. 16 shots, and you lose 4-1. You give up an empty net goal to Alex Ovechkin, which continues his march towards the great one. Wayne Gretzky for the all-time goal record. Ovechkin now sits at 873 career goals. Crazy stat that I came across getting ready for this episode tonight. Just happened to come across it, was curious. Looked up the active goal leaders in the league. So I took Wayne Gretzky out of it. I took all those all-time greats, just looked at active goal leaders. And I did not realize how big of a lead Alex Ovechkin has over the next active leading goal scorer in this league. And it is, of course, Sidney Crosby. He is second to Ovechkin in active goal scorers. 269 goals behind Ovechkin. That's crazy. Just goes to show you just really how much we're seeing an all-time great in Alex Ovechkin and how we're witnessing history here. Ovechkin was hurt for a while, so it kind of slowed down his pursuit a little bit. He still has a really good chance in the second half of the season before 2024-25 is up to officially break Gretzky's record. You got to think we're at the halfway point of the season. Give or take a couple games here and there. Different teams have played more or less games, but he's got around 40 games or so to score 21 goals. He's got a good chance to break it before this season ends. So Ovechkin gets the empty net goal. This game with the Predators was and the Capitals, it was 0-0 going into the second period. It was another one of those games where the Predators can't figure out ways to score goals. And then Tom Wilson gets a power play goal to open up the scoring in the second period. Philip Forsberg gets a power play goal to tie it at 1. You're feeling good going into the third period. You're thinking, okay, we can beat a quality team here, which the Predators have beaten some quality teams this year. They've got very, very few wins on the season. We all know that, but they have beaten some decent teams over the course of this season. Winnipeg and Dallas jump to mind. First and foremost, they've beaten, but just too few, obviously. But it was 1-1 going into the third period, and then the wheels fall off. Saros has a bad game. You're seeing it out there right now where, and I totally am in agreement with this. As much as I think that nowhere near the biggest issues this team has is goaltending, but I think Saros is just completely overworked right now. I think he needs a reset, and it's unfortunate. Other than Connor Hellebuck, Saros has faced the most shots this season out of all the goalies, and that shouldn't be anyone's surprise. But this game, he only faced 16 shots on goal by the Capitals, and you still give up 4 goals. I mean, 3 of those surrendered by Saros, the 4th one being the empty netter. But I think it's definitely valid to think about Justus Onanen getting more starts aside from just back-to-backs. Last time I checked, Onanen has like a .930 ballpark save percentage in his brief time with the Predators so far. I'll pull it up right now just to make sure I get the exact number. But definitely has been an upgrade to Scott Wedgwood. But unfortunately, this team's problem is not goaltending. But you look at, Onanen has started 5 games in his Predators tenure. .930 save percentage, 2.28 goals against average. And then you look at Saros in comparison, obviously a larger sample size, much larger sample size. But Saros' save percentage is a .903 save percentage in 33 starts this year, 2.78 goals against average. Both of those numbers are definitely above his career averages, or worse than his career averages. Not by much, but they are worse. And then, but Saros does have 4 shutouts on the year, so it's random. It's like you see 4 shutouts, but then you still see those numbers. So again, Saros is showing that he's streaky, and I think he's just. I'm totally in agreement with Justus Onanen getting more starts. You see teams do this a lot now. They swap their goalies. They have a 1A and they have a 1B. Now, it's really hard to wrap your head around that because Saros is signed for 8 years. After this year, he starts his 8-year contract he just signed. And it's hard to think, can you really make Saros a 1A and switch to a 1B with Onanen? As long as Onanen keeps playing it the way he has, and it's a very small sample size, I think you do it, especially with the way this season's going. You got nothing to lose. I think you start throwing more starts to Onanen. You start giving him more chances, see what he does, and start giving more rest to Saros. I mean, this season is kind of a throwaway season. It really has become that. And you're wanting to see younger players play and see what they can produce and see where the chips fall. I'm sure Trotz still thinks there's a chance that they can make the playoffs, and he doesn't want to just relinquish that just yet. But we got to be realistic here. It's almost a foregone certainty the Predators are going to miss the playoffs, and it's time to start looking into the deep future right now with this team. So with that said, everybody, it was a quick episode tonight of Catfish on Ice. Thank you for watching. If you've been watching on YouTube or Facebook, hit subscribe or follow below. Throw us a comment. This has been Chad Minton, your host. We've been presented by DraftKings with promo code THPN and by Game Time with promo code THPN. $20 off your first ticket purchase with Game Time and bonus bets with DraftKings with those promo codes for the NFL playoffs. So 2 great offers for those sports fans out there. Until then, we will get a new live episode out to you very soon with my co-host, Max Greenberg. Until then, have a great week, everybody. Stay safe.